Alright, hey everyone, back for another episode of Shtajio's vlog. This is episode 36.
36? Okay.
Okay, so, I'm Henry Thurlow.
I'm Arthell. Isom.
Alright, so on today's episode...
Actually, I always feel, we should do... I feel like we should always, say how to say our name in the beginning of every vlog so that people can say our company's name, right?
So, I am the director here, and Arthell is the CEO here at Shtajio.
Yes, Shtajio.
Art or D-Art. D-Art is correct, but D-Art is forgivable. It's forgivable.
Yeah.
D-Art. Shtajio. Shtajio.
Shtajio. Yeah, so say it with us.
Shtajio. All right.
Okay.
Animation studio here in Tokyo, Japan.
Yes. And don't add studio after Shtajio. Like sometimes we see that too. Oh yeah, in Japan there's a Shtajio studio. It's the same word. Like
anime studio, Art Shtajio is okay.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So today's topic is was it the Imposter Syndrome?
Imposter Syndrome.
What is this, Arthell? Explain to us what is Imposter Syndrome.
So Imposter Syndrome is when generally I think that happens with professionals, and you're in your professional field and you're working, or you're professional, but you feel like you're not up to par, or that you're not good enough, even though you're like, everyone, like, because you wouldn't know, so everyone around you is essentially saying that, yeah, the work that you're doing is quality work, you're producing great work, or, and you're adding to the industry. But for some reason in your mind, you can't see that, so everything that you see, you just feel that somehow you've gotten there and it's a mistake, and like you shouldn't be there, and you're like, so the word imposter, right? Like you feel like you don't belong in the industry because you're not good enough. I think that's like...
Okay, so start it. So what do you want to talk about in relation to
imposter syndrome? I feel like that most likely all artists, a lot of artists, not all, like a lot of artists suffer from that, maybe, which is the thing. And I don't know, like, I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Like, I kind of feel like imposter syndrome is okay because it helps you to kind of keep trying harder to improve and to get better. And like, yeah, if someone said, "Oh, do you suffer from imposter syndrome?" I'd probably say I probably like answer in the affirmative, because I don't know, like I always do feel that like I'm not good enough, or like that my work isn't where it's supposed to be, so I have to kind of keep going over and over and over again, or doing it over again, and so the imposter syndrome, I don't know, yeah, So, but if I don't know, because at the same time, it could be super extreme, where some people might have it and then they drop out of their career because of it, and they were probably good.
Beating yourself up too much.
Yeah, beating yourself up too much, and you're just like, no, I'm never gonna be good, even though you are good, right? And so you should just kind of like be able to see your work as it is, or as other people see it, and then be able to go from there. And most people, I think a lot of people say that is the better way to approach, like, your craft and things. Like, don't have this pessimistic view of what you're doing, right? Like, be more optimistic, and just have a more positive outlook about what it is that you're doing, and then you approach it that way. It's probably the better way to go about life.
So imposter syndrome, as you described it, I definitely suffer from that, like horrendously. I'd be like, he has a rampant case of that. I think early on in my career, I realized you do have to, another saying people say is like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And like, I realized that you really do have to do that. During very early job interviews in New York, I would be like, well, I'm just out of college, and, I don't quite know Flash yet, but I'll tell you what, you hire me, I'm a go-getter, and within a week, I'm going to know this program. And they'd be like, well, that's great, but we don't need someone who knows it in a week. We need someone that just knows it today. And some people interviewing already know it, so thank you very much, sir, right? I'm like, oh, man. So at some point, I had to just, leave my body and just be a person who I wasn't. So then the next interview would be like, Flash, yeah, I know that. Final Cut Pro, yeah, I know that. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't really know those. I mean, I know them a little. Like I can Like I can kind of use them, but to be honest, no. So you're telling me Final Cut Pro, totally fine, whatever you need. Like, yeah, I got that, right? Like, I'm not saying lie to people. I'm not, but I had to fake it till I made it, right? So it's like, yeah, I got you, yeah, right. And then, but when I was sitting there working on it, my feeling is always, oh God, everyone around me is better. I'm the faker here, like. I'm obviously not actually a professional like all the amazing people around me, and so I need to work really hard, and then maybe, just maybe, my stuff will come across good enough so that they won't pick up on it, right? And then, and that's how I feel for like every job, including like anime, right? Like, 'cause I'm the only foreigner in the whole room, and coming in and I'm like, you're gonna see the hardest worker you've ever seen, right? And they're like, well, okay, prove that to us. But then I'm like, oh God, these are actually like the hardest working animators in the whole. These are the hardest working animators in the whole world, and I've never worked as hard as them. And obviously their portfolios have perfect Japanese anime characters in them, and mine doesn't. Oh God, and like I managed to fake it in is my feeling.
Yeah.
But now now I'm here. In The Illusion of Life, the Disney book, I forget who it was. It was either Frank Thomas or Ollie Johnson. One of them was one of them was like really great at drawing, I think, but struggled with animation a little bit. And the other one was like really good at motion and animation, but struggled with drawing a little bit. And the one who struggled with drawing constantly said like, I feel like I don't belong here. Like everyone's drawings are better than mine. I feel like I'm doing bad work all the time. Obviously, this is like one of the greatest animators of all time, so it's funny that he would feel that way. But so I kind of think of that quote from time to time, or his feelings, because I'm like, well, look, maybe I'm being too hard on myself, right? Because at the end of the day, when I kind of back up, I can look at like the recent One Piece cut I did, right? That got some buzz online. And like I can kind of look at that and be like, well, that's kind of cool. Wait, maybe I did do a good. Wait, did I do a good sequence in One Piece? Well, holy crap! But it does almost come as a surprise to me because I constantly am in the mindset of like, what am I doing here? Oh God, like, do they realize I'm not as good as I think right? Like, but it maybe it is me just beating myself up. And to be honest, whenever I finished a job, even back in New York, people would always be like, oh man, we can't wait to work with you again. Like, you did such a great job on this project. So like, in hindsight, I must have done really good work, and actually I was good, right? I must have been, otherwise they wouldn't have wanted to for me to work with them again. But yeah, but personally, that is constantly in my mind.
Yeah, like I think those are some pretty good points, and even especially with Ollie Johnson, because I think that's where imposter syndrome probably like parts of the what is the word I'm looking for? Part of the beginnings or the origin, or like not the origin, but let's just use origin for now. Like that, those are some of the things where the imposter syndrome starts to form in you, right? Is when, like, I think a lot of artists look at everyone else and you look at everything around you, and you're like, okay, I need to be like this person, or I need to be like that person, and so, but everyone has the qualities that make them good, right? Or the qualities that make their work good, and so, like, you shouldn't be directly comparing yourself to them, because ideally, like, you'll be thinking about your own station or your own position, and then how you move forward from there, as, like, I guess based off the requirements that your industry needs, but I guess, like, everyone is just constantly looking at everybody else and then comparing yourself to, like, oh, how late did this person start, or how hard does this person work, or how much is this person drawing, and what are they drawing, and then and so then it makes you feel like this outsider, right, like an imposter in the industry or in your field, and so but because everyone suffers from it, perhaps we could just talk about more like how to try to get beyond that. How do you get outside of the imposter syndrome? Now, if you're an imposter, can't help you. But if you're not,
if it's just the syndrome,
right? Now, if it's just the syndrome, we can give you some advice. But I think, like, how do you get outside of feeling like an imposter, right? Like, and because if you're in the industry, if you got hired, obviously the people who hired you saw something in you, and then they saw something in your craft. So really, that should be one point where you can say, okay, I'm not an imposter. Right now, you're not going to be as good as everybody else, right? Because that's impossible, right? If you just got hired, or if you only been working for a few years, then you shouldn't be comparing yourself to someone who's been working for like 30 years. But that's like one of the first steps, right? Like, so where it's like, yeah, knowing your station, where are you at that stage? Okay, it's my first year in this industry, or it's my fifth year, and then where am I at this point? So some advice that I can give. Another thing is, besides just knowing your station, is kind of keep your past work and don't look at it all the time, because that's not effective either. But if at the end of the year, then you look at, maybe you just don't look at everything, but like, look at the beginning work, so your beginning works, or even the work from last year, right? You might look at it, oh, okay, this is what I did last year, and then you look at what you did this year. You're going to see a noticeable change. You're gonna, because you would have been practicing and essentially, applying your craft every day, right? And so you're like that, and that is our field, right? Like that is how you get better as an artist, is you have to just keep doing it. And so, so whenever you're feeling like an imposter, just look at something that you did the year before, and then look at the work you're doing now, and look at the work you did the year before, and you will see. And as long as you've been diligent, and not slacking and not playing around, like, because the work is important, but as long as you've been diligent in what you're doing, there will be a noticeable difference, and that pretty much anybody can promise you. You will change. It doesn't even matter if you didn't even know what you were doing. If you just keep doing it and you're working in the field and you have people around you, you will get better. And so that's another way to get beyond being the feeling of an imposter syndrome. The other advice that we can give is, of course, the work. Like, so putting in the effort. So so as an artist, there should always be self-reflection. So if you feel that, oh man, like I'm weak at this point, and then let's say that your imposter syndrome is making you just feel weak at things, then be able to at least try to figure out what it is that you feel that you're weak at, and then ask the people around you for advice, right? Because that's the great thing about working in an environment with other people. That's why you have to be working with other people, or practicing with other people. So like how Henry look at Illusion of Life and stuff, like, look through books, and also ask the people around you, how can I get better at this? This is where I feel like I'm just not good at it. Like, you guys are so good at this, and if you can voice the things that you don't like about your work, the people around you will give you advice about how to correct it. If there's even a problem, they might tell you that it's perfect, right? But then that's a good answer too. But they will also give you ways to.
Though, let me put an asterisk on that.
Yeah.
That is why it is also, and this might sound harsh, but it's important to surround yourself with the right people. So if you are just surrounded by your old high school friends who they themselves never got any better at art, and let's say you were all artists in the art club or whatever, and they now clearly don't even want to be artists, but occasionally sketch. For them to check your stuff, dude, you've gotten so much better, you're awesome. Well, hold on a second. Those are just honestly nobodies, right? Like saying that, like they're not in the field, they're not doing anything.
So you get the opposite, the Dunning-Kruger effect. We'll talk about that next time.
Make sure you are surrounded by people who you trust and you think are good. Part of the reason, actually a big reason that both of us came out here wasn't just to work on anime, but to be surrounded by that, right? I want the best people in the world around me at all times, right? That.
Yeah, that is very true.
As far as some other stuff you said, I agree. Actually, like occasionally look at your work. That it's funny. Like, every now and then I'll reshare my stuff on Twitter, and I do notice, like, now a couple years removed, like the Ganga that I'm handing in now, the recent One Piece stuff. It's like, if you compare that to Overlord from 2 years ago, like, actually the perspective was totally messed up there and needed to be all corrected by animation directors and stuff like that, and now none of that happens. And so I'm like, oh wow, like to be honest, if you asked me, I would probably be like, oh, I'm probably at the same level as them. But if you really do look at them side by side, you're like, that's quite a bit different. And then also my advice would just be, I suffer from this, but don't don't let it crush you. That's just really important, right? If you, like Arthell said, if you end up quitting because of it, well, then it wasn't beneficial at all. If you can use it to your benefit so that you're always pushing yourself, because I think you should probably have it a little bit. If you don't, then you're probably incredibly narcissistic. Yeah. Well, I'm amazing, right? Like no, you should kind of feel...
We should have our resident
psychologist.
No.
Stephen is an expert on narcissism.
Yeah, Stephen, can you give us a little bit of advice on Henry's point here?
Well, that would be more towards the Dunning-Kruger effect. Is like, when people think like they're awesome, they're not. And we now live in a society where tons of people think they're great. They got Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts. They're I actually, I don't disagree with Henry. I agree with him. I know you guys are trying to set me up to make me look crazy.
Sometimes Stephen goes off on rants about narcissism and its effect on the human mind.
Because I'm surrounded by them.
I am not a narcissist. Please. Perfect, I am. Please. Narcissist? No.
I'm gonna write a book.
It's totally different.
I'm gonna write a book.
But yeah, no. If you're using it to your advantage and you know that at the end of the day, like maybe it's frustrating that you're always kind of down on yourself, but if at the end of the day you can step back and kind of critically evaluate the situation, it's like, well, no, but it's benefiting me, it keeps me motivated, well, then that's a good place to be. But if you're like, it's crushing me and I don't even want to take my next job because I feel so bad at my work, well, then yeah, breathe in, breathe out, do some stuff Arthell said, look at old work, like because you got to get out of that. You can't be crushed to the point of not moving forward, right?
And as we said in the beginning, like almost everyone in the industry, like you said, obviously Henry and I, Steven, all of us who've been in the industry for a while and working, but we all still kind of suffer from it, right? Like like all of us think that we're just not, like, you're always trying to get better. And I think that's a healthy thing, like the goal is to always keep getting better, and just kind of expecting a lot from yourself, and and just kind of putting that work to kind of hopefully get to a point where you like your work. But I think that so it's not a negative thing. Well, yeah, as long as, like Henry said, you don't crush yourself with it, right? So but it's like, okay, how do you just get beyond it? So, but that's that.
Yep.
On imposter syndrome.
All right, that's this week's episode. Shtajio. See you next time.